know, sometimes we think we have to go far to bring in elaborate speakers to teach us new things, but it turns out your colleagues are the best teachers. They've done some phenomenal things at the 6th grade center regarding the ACT Aspire, and I wanted them to come share with you. Their ACT Aspire scores were absolutely awesome. We are reaping some of the benefits of that here because we have our 7th graders were theirs last year, and it's just a really intelligent group of kids, and we've enjoyed working with them. And I think a lot of that is off y'all's hard work. So we're so thankful to have them. They're going to talk to you about what they've done regarding the ACT Aspire at their school, and then you will see that it ties back to what you discussed this morning in your PLC groups. So thank you for being here.
Appreciate you having us. I am Danny Steele, and Michelle Tangle is one of our outstanding teachers. And most of I've met some of you guys, but some of you I know I haven't. But I've worked quite a bit with Dr. Woodley over the years. Most of my experience, like this is my 23rd year in education, and the first 22 years were secondary, except for 4 years at a junior high school. I was a history teacher, a 9th grade history teacher for 8 years, and then a high school assistant principal for 10 years. And so going to work with 6th graders was kind of a different experience, but it has been a great experience, giving me more time with my own family without some of the extracurriculars. But certainly, you know, at the high school, my world was AP and ACT. So learning about the ACT Aspire was kind of a new thing. But it is important to have big dreams, not small dreams. It's important to have big dreams. So when we started the year, our goal as a school was to lead the state in improvement. And to lead the state in improvement, you have to have some sort of frame of reference to sort of compare yourself. Back the beginning of June, there's a website that a group put out called the Public Affairs Research Council of Alabama that lets you look at the test scores by grade level, by subject of every system in the state, breaking down by school, by grade, by subject, by subgroup population. So we looked up all of the scores for the state. I was specifically interested in 6th grade, but as I was looking these up, and I went through all the grades, I noticed that there was a school up in about an hour above Jasper, Winfield Elementary, and I saw that their 4th grade led the state. 4th grade math tied with Mountain Brook for #1 in the state math Aspire, and they had also, I noticed they had like 48% free reduced lunch. That blew me away. And I got to figure out what they're doing. They're doing something awesome. So I drove up a couple hours this past summer to meet with the principal for a few hours. And then in October, we took 4 of our teachers, including Michelle, to meet with them again and visit some of their teachers, visit their classrooms, and see what they're doing. And as a result of this visit, Michelle and I ended up presenting at a workshop in Tuscaloosa on sort of best practices for ACT Aspire. They invited people in from all over the state, and we had a fun time. And that's kind of how we ended up here. So this presentation is what we did in Tuscaloosa. It was not intended for Alabaster folks necessarily. It was kind of something for just people around the state. And the superintendent in Winfield said, Danny, I just want y'all to sort of talk about kind of what you did to get the results that you got. We were very proud of our results. And what we did is it's important to follow the kids and to know how the kids are doing. So we inherited students at 35% proficient in 5th grade, and in 1 year we took them to 56% proficient. That same group of kids, that was a 60% increase in reading. In math, we inherited students that were 37% proficient when they took the Aspire in 5th grade, and when they took the Aspire as 6th graders, they were 62% proficient. That was a 68% increase. Very, very proud of that. And it was the hard work of our teachers and our students. Now, you guys know that it does not matter how brilliant a teaching strategy is, how dynamic a classroom activity is, if it's not the right sort of climate in the classroom, it's not going to count for much. There's a lot of other variables that impact the level of success of that instructional strategy. So I feel like we can't just focus on what are there magical strategies. There's good strategies, but you guys know there's no magical pills. There's nothing magical. A lot of it is just hard work. But we're very specific about focusing on some school culture things. The other thing I'm going to say is that, hopefully some of what we say here will resonate with you guys. I suspect a lot of what we say, it will be preaching to the choir, because Dr. Woodley has bragged on you guys to me before. So a lot of this will sound like you'll be thinking, well, we already know that, or we already do that. Sometimes it's just helpful to get that positive reinforcement that you're doing some good stuff. Sometimes it's also just helpful to hear it from a different person. So 3 aspects of school culture that we focused on: vision, collaboration, and a culture of high expectation. And again, this is nothing new or innovative. I'm not going to tell you guys anything probably that you don't already know or that you've not already heard at faculty meetings. So with vision, I told you that our goal was to lead the state in improvement. And that's kind of a big goal. We weren't trying to lead Alabaster in improvement. We were trying to lead the state in improvement. So you got to know where you rank in the state to know if you've improved, if you're leading the state in improvement. So you guys are familiar, you've probably seen, well, maybe you've seen, this type of a result. This is what you get back. This is reading results. These are our reading results. And what's in dark orange right there, that's the proficient. What's the light orange is what that is. That's those that were close. In white, those are the ones that were not proficient. But the ones that were in the close range, those were people who just missed it by a couple questions. If you look at how the difference between proficient and not proficient is sometimes just a couple questions. So what we did, like at our school, this is 234 kids proficient. What is that? Like 157 that were in the close range. We said, what would our proficiency have been if we had gotten everyone that was in the close range? Just a couple questions over the hump. Where would we have been? It turns out in reading, we would have been at 72% proficient in 2014. And that would have tied us for second in the state. If we had gotten all those in the close range in math, we would have been at 87% proficient. That would have tied us also for second in the state. We talked about this at faculty meetings. And I actually went in and we talked about that with students. Second in the state. There is so much potential. So much potential in our school, so much potential in y'all's school. If you just get those kids over the hump there. Now, there are some people who feel like that it's not good to focus so much on a standardized test. There's some people that may not think the Aspire is a good test. There's some people who think that being real competitive with this is not a good thing. And here's my thought. One of the things I realized as we went through the year is that our goal, our focus on leading the state in improvement on the ACT Aspire, it created in our school an intensity that would not have otherwise have been there. And that intensity translated into, I feel like, more meaningful collaboration between the teachers, more effective lesson planning, more meaningful assessments and analysis of those assessments. So that competitive edge that we tried to cultivate in our school and within our faculty, I think it translated into just better instruction. Culture of collaboration. Again, I know this is something that you guys work with. I know you guys have PLCs, professional learning communities. This is, 15 years ago, professional learning community was kind of an innovative idea, I guess. This is just how schools do business. And if, the time of shutting your door and doing your own thing, that time is long gone, all right? 2 teachers are better than 1. 3 teachers are better than 2. 4 teachers are better than 3. Collaboration is so important. I don't care if you're a first-year teacher or if you've been teaching 30 years, collaboration is what the best teachers do. Michelle is one of the best teachers I've ever been around, and she's the first one to try to go pick the brain of somebody else. We try to focus on an interdisciplinary approach to collaboration, not just math teachers getting together and ELA teachers getting together, but obviously our focus was reading and math. Those are the high stakes portions. But at the secondary level, as a history teacher, I did never feel like it was my mission to teach reading. I didn't feel compelled to teach reading. I didn't feel trained or equipped to teach reading. And at the secondary level, quite frankly, the science and social studies teachers, they don't necessarily feel comfortable doing that. But yet we need them to. We did not have a math and reading goal of leading the state in improvement. It was a school-wide goal. We tried to get everybody to try to take ownership in this vision. In some ways I think we were successful. I worked really hard with our PE teachers trying to get them to have word walls up in the gym. And they were up for a couple days until they got knocked over by dodgeballs. But to me that was symbolic, that if we get our PE teachers to care about vocabulary words, then we're trying to get a school focus, not just reading and math teachers. It's too much for all of this to just hang on the backs of a handful of teachers. So we wanted everyone involved. Well, so what we did is we had our social studies and our science teachers go in. We had, specifically social studies, we had our 3 social studies teachers go in and watch into Michelle's reading class and watch her teach a reading lesson out of their social studies book. And she was gracious enough to do it in the middle of their content. I mean, in their curriculum, what they were teaching right then. They said, this is the lesson we want, this is the topic that we're teaching. Can you teach a reading lesson with that? And she did that. And we also had our science teachers go in and watch another reading teacher teach a reading lesson out of the science book. Elliot. I know you guys are familiar with Elliot. I was first introduced to this a little over a year ago as I was getting ready to be a part of an external review team for Advanced Ed, this accreditation process that we went through. I've never been fond of paperwork, evaluation forms. It's one of those things, I don't know many administrators that love that type of paperwork. I love to go in classrooms. I don't like to write stuff down when I do it. So I was sort of skeptical and cynical about this when I started going through the training. But Michelle can vouch for the fact that after I went through the training, I started talking to our teachers about it because I really bought into the value of this. It is without a doubt the most research-based classroom observation tool in the world, I think. Certainly in the United States, but Advanced Ed and Elliot is a worldwide thing. It's just great, great teaching. And it is to me, it's a much more constructive way of looking at what's going on in the classroom, like way more effective than PEPI or something like that. But so the reason I mention that is thinking about our focus on collaboration and peers learning from each other. I asked our social studies teachers back in the spring to offer to sort of be a pilot. They were agreeable. They went through the Elliott training. So this training is something that normally just administrators do to observe, but we had the social studies teachers go through this training. It's about a 3 or 4 hour online training. And then in the afternoon, I recruited some teachers to be willing to host them to come in and do an observation. And so I went in with our social studies teachers last spring, and we did 3 different Elliott observations, and then we debriefed on our scores. So that was good training for the teachers because they got to see what are the characteristics of an effective lesson. But then they got to go in and see 3 different colleagues with a little bit more of a professionally critical eye on engaging classrooms. And then the teachers, like Michelle has hosted a lot of these, then she gets some feedback. Teachers love getting, in my experience, teachers love getting feedback on their lesson. And so she's had a lot of that feedback over the last year. And so over the summer, I thought, and talking to the leadership team, how cool would it be? Keep in mind, small dreams, That's not the ticket. Big dreams are the ticket. How cool would it be if our entire faculty got Elliott certified? Keep in mind, most administrators in the country are not even Elliott certified. So in the fall, we had all our academic teachers go through this training. And right now, our art teacher, like this morning in the big computer lab, our art teacher, special ed teachers, ESL teacher, and Spanish teacher are going through Elliott training right now. And so then our entire faculty, I think, I've told Dr. Woodley, I think we will be the first school in the country. And I do like talking about this because it's just cool. I think we will be the first school in the country to have our entire faculty Elliott trained. I don't know of anybody that really thinks to do that because this is just something that administrators do. But how awesome is it to have teachers going into each other's classrooms doing this type of stuff? It's not evaluative. It's collaboration and it's professional learning. And so now, when our teachers go into each other's rooms, I say, don't give me a copy of the Elliott form. They're all trained to do Elliott's now, so they can fill out the Elliott, but to take away some of the anxiety, I say, don't even give it to me. It's not going in anybody's folder. You go in for 20 minutes, and then you fill out the thing and give it to the teacher. I don't even want to see it. And it was my goal to take some of the anxiety out of that. But think about the collaboration that comes from that, the professional learning. So, data walls are, that's nothing new to anybody, but this is up in our main hallway. This right here is where we're sort of highlighting the growth from, this is tracking the kids. 2014 to 2015 in math, 68% increase. In reading, it was a 60% increase. Right here is where we were tracking the first interim assessments. We finished with our second interim assessment in reading and math. We just don't have them up yet. I can tell you how we did. We saw growth, not the growth we would have liked to have seen, but administering assessments right around Christmas, you're not always going to get the best out of the kids. And sometimes there can be a little bit of a lull, I guess, in the second assessment. That's what I'm telling myself. So we want to stay encouraged. But right here, the average, and again, if you're familiar with the interim assessments, you know that it's percent correct, not percent proficient. And that's a little bit of a sticking point because we don't exactly know then what to predict with proficiency. But first interim in math, we were 29%. With the second interim, we went up to 32%. So that's progress. In reading, we were at 63% correct. We went up to 64% correct. Sometimes it's baby steps. But our teachers they've got little graphs and charts of how their classes are doing, setting class goals and stuff like that. We do have some kids in some classes that showed much bigger growth than that. Culture of high expectations. These are just some pictures. This is one of Michelle's kids. I am Aspire Ready is what that teacher said. Can we cut like one line off? Let's see if that thinks it is. You still can't really see. His t-shirt says, I am Aspire Ready. That kid made that. That was not Miss Tangle's idea. The kid made that. Who does that?
And Dr. Steele, his mother walked him in, and his little brother had a shirt that said, my brother's ready.
All right, so when I look at that, I see that is reflective of a school culture where people have taken ownership in this, in our goal of leading the state in improvement. Here's another thing that blew me away. You take the test over several days. All right, I guess 4 days, including a makeup day, or depending whether or not you do English and science. But our kids, at least some of our kids, would report to the gym before school started. And someone called my attention to this. I didn't know about it, but then I heard about it, and then the next day I went and took a picture. We had a group of guys. Each morning, before the tardy bell, when they were released from the gym to go to class, they got into a huddle and prayed about the Aspire. That's what that is right there. And they didn't know I was taking a picture. I heard about it. I went in and took the picture. A group of guys huddling. A little pep talk, prayer about the Aspire. Who does that? You think that fired me up? Oh my goodness. I took that picture and sent it to anybody that I thought would care. I just thought that was awesome. I don't know how many people in my contact list would care, but it sure did fire me up, man. All right. Most people have on the marquee the Aspire. We're taking the Aspire April through 14 through 16. What was up on our marquee? You can't see that. It says, rockin' the Aspire. We're not just taking it at the 6th grade center. We're going to rock it. That was our goal. We're trying to lead the state in improvement. We're not aspiring to just sort of making AYP, as they used to say. We're trying to destroy that thing. We're going to rock it. All right, we had a group of kids that each morning on the intercom, that week of the test, they pulled off YouTube clips of people who had taken a pop song like Dynamite or some Katy Perry song or something, and they would put test-taking lyrics to it. So the girls didn't have to write it. It was already on the web. They took off, and then they sung it over the intercom each morning when we would do announcements. Here they were practicing. This is a picture of them practicing for me. And then this is just a picture. We had stuff hanging down from the hallway. We had posters that says Rock the Aspire, and there were test-taking strategies and stuff. You can flip the lights. Now, I can hear some people saying, but that's like elementary, Dr. Steele. Those wouldn't work with our kids. Our kids are too cool for that sort of thing. If you catch yourself saying anything like that, or if you catch a neighbor saying something like that, well, that wouldn't work at our school, our kids would never get into that, that's too corny, just like, I won't say punch him, but that's an excuse. That's an excuse, okay? You guys might have heard of that book, that line from Apollo 13, Failure is Not an Option. Like, people who are awesome, people who aspire to be awesome, they don't make excuses for anything. Oh, well, you don't know our kids. Oh, well, you don't know our parents. Oh, I've got 32 kids. This year, our reading teachers have like 32 kids in the room, some of our classes, with 14 special ed kids. Is there potential? I did have a teacher in our very first PLC meeting of the year. Dr. Steele, I'm nervous about, I don't know that we're going to be able to keep these scores up with 32. We just can't do. You can't go there. You just can't. There is zero constructive about complaining or talking about things that are not under your control. You can't control how many kids. If I need to calm down, just tell me to calm down. Neely knows I can get excited talking about stuff. You can't control how many kids are in your room. You can't control sometimes what you're teaching or how many preps you have. You can't control the level of education of your kids. You can't control the quality of parents they have or the fact that their parents won't check their grades on it. You can't control any of that. The only thing you can control is your attitude and the quality of instruction and assessments you prepare for your kids. That is it. So don't spend an ounce of energy concerned or worrying about anything else. You just figure out a way to do it. You just do your best. One of the things that makes Michelle so awesome at what she does, and she's a phenomenal teacher, and you'll probably pick up on that when you hear her talk, but she is relentlessly positive. There are times when she has a legitimate reason to be down. If her kids are misbehaving or if the sub didn't handle the right, we all have legitimate reasons to get down about stuff. But getting down about stuff or being down about stuff does not help anything or anybody. And who likes being around those people? So relentlessly positive, and you're not going to say, well, that wouldn't work with our kids. You just do the best you can, you keep plugging away. And I think positivity and having a positive attitude, having high expectations, I think it's contagious. I think it's infectious. And nothing great was ever accomplished without enthusiasm. I don't know who said that. Somebody. I didn't make it up, but I always loved it. This is another thing in the culture. I talked to, I think Desiree. It's kind of funny. I was talking to Neely, and our two schools simultaneously came up with something similar. This is our Aspire Higher Club. Do you guys have a name, or y'all talked about that?
We've got one in the works.
We're working on something. It's just a way of celebrating and showcasing kids who have made improvement from one interim to the next. Y'all might do it a different way, but these are kids that are not honor roll kids necessarily. They're not the brightest kids, but they're kids that are making progress, and so we're trying to celebrate and showcase these kids. Last thing I'm going to say is this, and I think this is probably like my last slide. Michelle, is that probably right? Almost my last slide. School culture, which is what these things fall under the umbrella of: vision, collaboration, high expectations. These fall under the umbrella of school culture. That's something that I take very, very personally. I know Dr. Woodley does as an important part of our role, our responsibility, because we don't actually teach any kids as principals, or not many. So we try to impact school culture. But I'm going to say this. School culture is not just the administrator's job. The biggest thing that impacts school culture, I think, is the teachers. I really do. And I'm going to tell you, Michelle Tangle, she's an example. She and I started at the 6th grade center the same year. Okay, this is her second year, this is my second year. She single-handedly impacted our school's culture in 1 year. Her commitment to collaborating with colleagues, her commitment to destroying the ACT Aspire, she's figuring out how to talk smack with her old school system. She's competitive about this. She doesn't want to be second to anything. Her commitment to collaboration, to being positive, that has impacted everybody. So don't sell yourself short in your ability as classroom teachers to impact and in fact create the best school culture around. One thing I think that really fired me up and was very gratifying in light of the fact that we were working so much on high expectations, with the surveys that go out with Advanced Ed, the surveys that go out to parents, to teachers, to students, and then we have a chance in the summer when all the data comes back to evaluate the results of those surveys. And there's like 30 or 40 items that teachers ranked. The single highest score from students was this one right here. My teachers and my principal have high expectations for me. That was another thing that fired me up because we worked at it. You guys have heard the research before that having high expectations of kids is absolutely crucial. But here's the thing. You can't pretend to have high expectations. You can't pay lip service to high expectations. You have to actually believe they can do it. And the kids can do so much more than we ever thought was possible. As you know, the Aspire is very different from the ARMT. Michelle knows a lot more about that than I do. So she's going to talk some about the difference between the assessments. And hopefully a lot of what she says as well will be preaching to the choir. Not necessarily new stuff, but maybe said in a different way. Hopefully it will resonate with some of you.
Well, I'm Michelle Tangle, and there's no pressure on me this year at all. I'm just going to say that. Thank you, Dr. Steele. I hope I do well, or it's on the line. But I've been doing this for 19 years. I've taught elementary, 2nd grade for 14 years. I did SPED K through 3. I've also worked at a middle school in Saraland. I've also worked with through 6th through 8th grade with different reading strategies as well. And what we did in Tuscaloosa was based on a reading workshop. I will cover some math things like the word justify because I did learn that. But it is based where we can also go over to each other as well. So those of you who did the ARMT, you ever administered the ARMT test before? How many of you ever administered the ARMT? I mean, I might as well just said, hey, this is what it is. They knew it. They didn't get a 4, you were surprised, right? But we had the information. That was the thing. We had the information given to us throughout the entire process. I'm so old that I think I gave the SAT 1, okay, when it first came out. I had that information given to me. I could go to it, I could research it, I could get things from my neighbors, I could go to workshops. But I don't know about you guys, but how many workshops have you been to that they've given you the information about the Aspire? This many. If you go on the website, you type in Aspire Math, Aspire Reading, whatever. What does it do? It gives you straight back to that website that you've seen 10,000 times. We have absolutely no resources to do it. So what have we been doing? Because my daughter's over here this year, and I see it coming home in her work. What are we doing now? We are reaching out, going out of our comfort zone to get different things that we need so that we can be proficient. Miss Tauber and I met. She was at the Aspire workshop, and she said, hey, can I come over and meet? So, between our this and that and everything else, we met on a Friday afternoon till about 4:15. And we sat there, and I'm just going to bow down to Miss Tauber, who went outside her box in her comfort zone and she just wanted me to look at things that she was doing. And I thought, wow. Absolutely wow. That she thought, you know what, although I'm a science teacher, what can I do to make it better? And I think she worked with Mrs. Tingle to get her, which we're related by the way. Is she in here? Okay, we're related so much. Tingle Tangle, get it? That she was working with her to do the testing for, to get things ready for the stems and things like that. It's fabulous. I was blown away. Good job. So I'm thinking, okay, if this is working here, which, because like, again, you guys are already doing it, you know, we need to get it working ground up. Okay, we need to get it working. So I've been to Creekview. I flew from Meadowview today with wings on my car to get here enough time to do this one. And so they're already doing it. I already have pictures from Creekview. They're already doing it. They're putting it in place. So this, as a whole, us working together as a whole, which we're great at. I mean, I've been in Alabaster City for, this is my second year, so a year and a half, and I'm already seeing such great things. I can't wait to see more things happen. Okay, back to the reading test. This is how it's broken down. Again, you guys you're in two different boxes. Kiddies and details, craft and structure, integration. All right, you see that the hardest point, especially with, you know, you ELA teachers, which, by the way, you guys have a hard job. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now. I teach 49, 50 minutes of reading. That's it. Reading. You guys do, I don't know how your bell schedule is, but you guys do reading and English and mush it together. Okay? We only test in Alabaster City for reading and math and science, but there is an English out there. So I guarantee you it's probably coming. There is also a writing out there. So now, guess what, ELA teachers? You may now be looking at 3 different tests that you're giving and you're held accountable for. Reading, English, writing. Okay? So when you're talking about this, and I'll just talk to 7th grade, here is how the points are broken down and the percentage of the points. Okay? They're similar, sure. But look at right there, that key ideas and details. Is that not the hardest thing you have ever had to do to teach a child to actually go back in and support what it is? Okay, their favorite word is what? What's a child's favorite word? Anybody know? Why? Mom, can she spend the night? No. Why? Mom, can I have this? No. Why? 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 I wear a Y sometimes. You know, like a little Y patch on my shirt, and I just walk by one. You know, they'll say something, and I say, well, I have to. And I'll just point, and they're like, oh, okay, I got it. Okay? Finding those key ideas and details right there, that's all about a why. If that's your favorite word, well, back it up. That's all I say. Back it up, because that's the reason why we're failing. And that is one of the areas on the Aspire that we have the hardest time. But you know what's odd to me is most of my special ed children, that's their highest. Which is, I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm going to get back to you on that. But that's usually their highest. And like he was talking about the Aspire Higher Club, those kids that came in first interim and they nailed it, blew it out of the water, you're not finding those kids on your board. You're finding those that came in middle, a little bit below. You're finding those kids on that board. And how wonderful is that? These are the kids that will not probably get a certificate at the end of the year. You will not find their name on the board ever, probably, because they are the lower class, the lower of the group of students. But yet they're on the board. Why? Because they actually took it. And that higher to get higher is hard work. That medium and lower to get higher, boy, that's a breeze most of the time. Most of the time. All right, craft and structure, again, it's all broken down your points and percentages. Most of them are made up of literary narratives, informational text at a range of complexity levels. You'll see that, reading teachers, you'll see that on your, when you get your interim results back, you'll see that text complexity. It just varies. And of course, we're talking about that. What type of text do children normally steer clear of? Nonfiction, that informational text. This is where my science and social studies teachers are going to be huge, because you can take any of this stuff that we're talking about today and apply it to your lesson. Look, I don't know anything about Camacho, Commanda, whoever he was, and that one thing I did for the social studies teachers, but I'm going to tell you what, it was a fabulous lesson, because the kids were like, wow. You know, even though it's an informational piece, I used all my reading strategies, and they don't get that yet. I hope they get it here. They don't get that in 6th grade, because I have one that comes to me that says, have you taught contest quiz yet? Because I can tell you haven't. And I'm like, oh, we did, we just finished it. Well, they're not getting it. I'm like, okay, well, let me tell you how to teach it in your room. Let's us get together, or let me come down to your room and I'll model for you. And then after that, guess what? They have it. That's why we're all here, so that we can talk to each other. If you're having trouble in one class, go to Miss Tauber, or go to Miss Miranda, or go to whoever, and say, hey, how are you doing that to make, I gotta do the same thing. It has to cross over. All right? All right, again, we have multiple choice, and we have constructive response. This is TE, technology enhanced. That's computer-based only. We don't have that anymore. We did, the year before I got here, they took the Aspire on the computer. Well, that was probably a hot mess, because what I saw there, or what I thought, that I wasn't even here, but I could go ahead and paint that picture, is that you can do all the things that I'm going to tell you what to do, with tips that help, that I've seen work around the state. But if I'm telling my kids to underline and circle, they have a highlighter that you can use on that computer, and you can change your color. How cool is that? So those kids are doing, I know, I can tell you that's exactly what they were doing. Multiple choice, again, broken down. Here you have 7th grade, then you have 8th grade, y'all are a little bit split up a little bit. Another biggest thing when you're talking about the Aspire is they're not finishing, are they? They're not finishing. And what are they not finishing? Those constructive responses. You know why? Because they want to write a book. Sure, are they answering it? Absolutely. Most are. Some are just putting whatever down. Okay? But for the main part, they're not finishing that, and those are those few points we saw. I think it was 151 on that. I think 151, maybe 157 on that. That were right there on the edge of it. I guarantee you, it's that one little kid that came to me at the end, because I asked, because you have to ask. Who asks when they're done with the test? How'd you do? Well, like they're going to say, I did great. I mean, that's what they say. Just don't even ask them. They just say, I'm so proud of all of you. Good job. Don't ask, and then you go home, and then, who knows what will happen. You'll take a long hot bath and just take an aspirin. All right, but the constructive responses are the things that they're not finishing. So how can we teach them to do that? That was the one thing that bothered me. That bothered me when I taught in Saraland, and I gave the reading portion, but I didn't necessarily teach reading. I taught English. So when I was walking around, I was like, oh my gosh, they have 5 minutes left, that I can tell that they're, thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, poor Miss Broom. Like these kids aren't finishing. So what can I do that I can help make them, finish? What can be done to do this? Okay, so the next year, I started adding a little something that I got from a buddy of mine. I got this little piece from this buddy. Back in the models, I got this little piece from this one. That was another school in Mobile. I thought, you know what, combined together, this might work. So I started working on different things, so I'm going to talk to you in just a minute. But anyway, this is how it is broken down. Again, you have 60, and again, math teachers, we're reading, okay? 60 minutes, 3 to 5 constructive responses. Here you have that DOK level of 25 to 48%. A little bit higher than what, that to me, that's a lot. Okay, it's higher than what we would do normally on an average day. So again, there's my second dilemma, was how now am I going to incorporate that more into my classroom? All right, this is what I was taught when I was young. And this is what I also taught, when we had to go to school on courses. Okay, was I read the question first. Then I may have read the passage or story, but the biggest thing is, hey, Kim, go in and find that answer. You go straight to those questions first and go in and find it. What are they learn from that? Nothing. Absolutely, and I'm going to say nothing. Because they learn not a thing. They learn how to go back. Absolutely. I took tests like that. I taught kids to take tests like that. That's what's sad. That I didn't one time say, well, my thing was a time issue. We'll make plenty of reading. We'll just do it like that. No. All right. When you are doing any type of passage, science and social studies teacher, this is great as well. Because say hip hip hooray, is that you can write in your book. You can write inside that Aspire book. Now, I've been doing this 19 years. I want to hug the man that came up with that idea because of the fact that, you know what? This is great. I tell my kids at school, everybody's going to be watching. And they will let me know if you did not write inside your book. It'll like, you guys me? So I'm telling you what, they are doing, they are working, they are circling, they are underlining, they're doing all they can. So when you actually tell them to do it, read that title, what does that give you? Background info. Now, boom, their mind's already set all the prior knowledge they have about whatever. But hopefully that it'll be the nonfiction piece, but hopefully have something about prior knowledge on that.
Hey, Michelle, could I add this in here? I know that, reading is something that has to be a school-wide focus. It just has to be. And I think our 3 social studies teachers went over and visited one of your teachers who had a kind of a strategy for kids interacting with the text. And so there's not a single one of you that doesn't need kids to read more effectively in their classroom, okay? And so something to think about are what are ways that we can get kids to engage with the text. Michelle's talking about an example of during the test, it's helpful that they can actually read in their Aspire booklet. But day to day, we need to figure out ways in the classroom where kids are learning to not read mindlessly, but are engaged in interacting with their text.
Right. And the way we have our book set up, we have Codex. That's our reading series. When I first got here a year and a half ago, and I was in July, and I was sitting on a box. And again, it wasn't all about unpacking. It was all about, I need to see my teacher's edition. I mean, we all do that. And I sat there, I was like, no, what is this? It didn't come from Prentice Hall. It didn't come from the typical thing that I was used to. So now I thought I automatically had to put one foot outside my box and think, how am I going to incorporate this? It had that teacher talk in there, which I never used anyway. But now, how am I going to do it? And I have to do it effectively. Well, then I started looking, and I thought, you know what? This whole book is Aspire-based. The entire book. And I thought, this book rocks. So I'm a huge fan. So after I tell my kids to read the title, and I give them things, and I model, I'm like probably the prettiest little princess ever in my room, because that's all I do is, I'm still modeling. We are now in January, and I'm still modeling, and still modeling. Because again, I have 49, 50 minutes with my kids' tops. I want them to be able to do it on their own. So I always model, and then I set you free. So reading that entire passage, starting those keywords or phrases as they go, is it important? Do I care that the little precious kitty had a pink bow on the neck? Probably not if it was talking about how the cat went to a birthday party. Okay? Then I'm going to turn that main idea, central idea. You know, on the interim it has main idea, on the test it has central idea, you guys have key idea. Oh my gosh, everybody's crazy. If they don't know it's all the same, they're not ever going to get it. I was talking to a teacher the other day, and my kids know that when, you know, because you must have that evidence to support it. I was talking to a teacher across the hall, and I said something about the central idea. The kid walked by and went, because I talked about you have to have that evidence to support it. If you have to be evidence, you have to be strong. So when I'm talking to that teacher across, I said, yes, no, central idea. The kid walked by and said, yeah. And I was like, you have it going on. Super job. Okay, so again, determine that main idea, central idea, but I'm not picking stuff because I think it's pretty. I'm picking stuff because I have something to support. Okay, and again, model. This is Creekview. I saw them, I think at the end of November, and they are, look how she's modeling that. She's here, and she's modeling. Those are the kids right there. You can't see them, but they're right there. And she is modeling, and they have their paper on their lap. So it's coming, okay? It's coming. Now, again, this is probably a second or third grade classroom, so it's going to take a couple years. But it is coming up to where, and I got a TIS this afternoon, so it's going to start, and we're going to start seeing this, that these kids can actually go back and find the things without first saying, I don't get this, what are we doing? Because I know I get that this year. I don't understand what we're doing, and I need help, I don't know what we're doing. Okay? Take that fixed mindset that those children have and get rid of it. Okay, so again, it's coming. Now, we're talking about attacking those questions. This is just something that I actually use in my classroom. I thought, you know what? Because every single answer on the Aspire has the possibility of being correct. okay? It's one word that throws it out. So, if little Johnny, who finishes his fire in 10 minutes, and there will be some that do that, guys. You know, you can't worry about that. Johnny's to the side. I'm worried about these other percentage of children. Or this 10%, you know, I've done my best. We'll see growth in them. But I'm not going to start drinking at noon because they're doing this. I'm going to come forward and, you know, keep going. But this is what I've taught, and this is what we use at TSGC because we think that it's the best because you're reading each question twice. Some of those words in there, they'll throw you off. You know, go over each answer choice. That's why, you know, you get to A and it looks good. Guess what? They all look good. They all look good. Are you reading each one? Because, you know, I tell mine this. Okay, this is probably wrong, but I tell it anyway. I always say 1 looks and they say good. 2 looks, they say better. 3 looks the best, and I say, and what is D? All the above. There's no all the above against fire. No, not for 6th grade anyway. I don't know if they have it, I don't know if they do for y'all. I know there's not. That's not how it's supposed to be set up. But I don't tell them that. You know, so that way that I'm making them look. Eliminate those wrong answers again. Write in your book. It's fabulous. It's a new thing. Go back to the passage if needed to find that evidence. Give it your best guess. And little Johnny from 2 years ago said, I didn't know a couple, so I just left them blank. Well, I almost fainted. Never leave one blank. That's the biggest thing I say is even if that you know that the time is about to go up, bubble, bubble, bubble. Don't leave them blank. Okay? Again, I have this and I have this in the room. They have those 2 things in their notebook. I'm hoping everybody also has it in their notebooks for all the reading teachers and English teachers, and everybody should have that. And I put it out there that it is something that as long as that routine, you know, memorization is the lowest form of knowledge. So if they can memorize that and then learn to apply that, wow. I mean, half your battle's over right there. All right. Isn't that sweet? That's what the art looked like, right? It was, hold on, Crystal Wonderland. This makes me just smile. There it is now. This is, I forgot the white fang. That's from a 6th grade. That's a 6th grade. That's a 6th grade. That's why we all scramble. I can't imagine what 7th grade looked like. You probably had Crystal Wonderland and something else added to it. You had another paragraph out of yours probably in 7th grade. 3 paragraphs maybe for 8th grade. That's a huge difference. That's why we all scrambled. That's why y'all went, oh my gosh. And we still don't have the resources to do anything with it, right? And we don't have those great. Now math, you guys have where you actually can pull your assessments and do that. Reading, because of a copyright deal, I don't know what the big deal is, but we can't do that. We can go online and we can do some things, and we can find those resources and that help us, that's Common Core based, that will help us do it. So a little bit of a disadvantage right there. Now, in the classroom, this is something that we all have. Amber Willis was phenomenal. She made up one for math, and I thought, that's a great idea. So, boom, there went one for reading. And we meet. Every time they take it, we meet. Okay? Like test 1 comes in, and I meet, and then I probably meet with them a little bit longer, saying, hey guys, this is your copy. This stays in your binder. This will go in your magic clear sleeve, and we'll talk about it often. And they wrote down their things. But down here, I let my kids set their goals, their own goals. We talked about how goal setting goes, you know, and I didn't want so-and-so coming from a 46 to go 100. I'm like 100. All these, like 100. Well, you know, let's try to, you know, make it to where it's, you know.
I want to make sure this is not lost on anybody. She said Amber came up with this idea on math to chart the kids' progress and then to conference with them individually and have them write down their score and then a goal. And then she said, boom, reading is doing it.
Yes, right.
That doesn't happen like magically. It happens through collaboration. And in the school, we got to check all our egos at the door. Nobody has a monopoly on best practices. We all have things we're awesome at. But we have to make sure that we have the type of school culture where everybody is sharing. If you got something awesome, don't hold on to it, share it. If you're not sure how to do it, go find somebody, find out how to do it. But, you know, And from my perspective, when I find out one teacher is doing something awesome, I'm going to figure out a way to make sure that all gets shared.
Absolutely. I saw the kid's folder, and then I ran down to her room and said, "What you got good there, girl?" And she told me. So that she is awesome. And again, you teach as many kids as I teach. 180. I teach 180 kids per day. And it takes library day. I can do it, we go to TIS to the library, and I come with 2 along the way. My line's going up, and I take those last 2. I'm like, hey, we're going to talk a second. And I have their stuff. I mean, any chance I can get. We're going to conference where they can set their own goals. When I was talking to Amber, who created it, I told her, I said, hey, how do you do yours? How do you conference yours? Because like the first time I was having a real hard time, this is what we did last year, I'm having a real hard time trying to find the time to do that. She's like, don't freak out if you don't get all 35 of them in one day. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't think outside that box. I just thought 35 in one day, I got to do this for every class, and then I'm done. But she said, no, sometimes it takes me a week. I'm like, oh. So, it was great. All right, this is when we met with the science and social studies teacher. This one right here, Mr. Benton, is the one that creates all of the social studies tests for the 6th grade center. And he would come down every single time, quiz, test, handout, whatever it was, and he would say, Michelle, you mind looking at this, where to see if it's going to be okay. I thought, well, absolutely, And then it was like the next day, he brought something else. The next day, he brought something else. The next day, he brought something else. And I went, wow, you are into it. Automatically, I knew these 3 people right here were sold. We're sold on it. This one, Miss Skelly teaches 1 class of reading this year. And she is constantly in my room or Holloway's room or someone else's room to say, hey, what can I do better? That's phenomenal. How are you doing this? My kids didn't get this. Because she does like a couple social studies, then a break, and then reading, and then a couple more social studies. So she's, it's a little bit hectic for her. But what she's doing is, hey, you know what? I could easily say, it's just 1 reading class. But no, she's going out of her way to make sure she's doing her job.
And she's a
with
veteran.
that 1.
And she's a veteran teacher, and
Right.
she's an awesome teacher. None of us have arrived. And that's an important part of the school culture, of the psyche of the faculty, is that everyone is committed to getting better.
Absolutely. So all of our social studies and most of our science that we're getting science, getting it down, are Aspire-based tests. There's just an example of theirs, and the verbiage that's being used here, just like the STEM set, Ms. Talbert, you sent it, when I sent that, she sent me the STEM set she uses over here that her and Ms. Tingle came up with. When I sent it out to my guys over there, they were like, several emailed back and said, yay. That makes me feel good that that's exactly what's going on. So I said, there's another example of one. A lot different than the ARC, I'm sure. Okay, these are just different things that that we do at TSGC, class goals. Okay, have those class goals. I have a big poster. I have it over here. I know, Kim Miranda, you have a huge wall that has your class goals, and you're just setting that competition already. I've been in a couple other classes, you're setting that competition already. The first time I thought about that, when someone told about that, as a girl from my friend from Mobile, in Mobile County school system, and she said, we're doing these school goals and class goals. I went, I'm all about feelings. I'm like, doesn't it hurt somebody's feelings? She says, well, no, it doesn't. And I thought, okay. And I just kind of put it in my brain. And then I talked to another friend that teaches North Alabama, and she talked about it. And I thought, well, this has to be something good. This has to be something good. Well, then, I go into other classrooms, and I see, like, I'm walking into Kim's classroom, and I see hers in there. I mean, it is something. Kids love it. I mean, we do sporting events. We go. We want Alabama to win over Auburn, right? We want this to go down. We want this to go over this. We want to be the better ones. My kids walk in and say, first period got us by 1%. And what are you going to do about that? What are you going to do as a class? And they say, we can. Absolutely. Now they're on board. Okay?
I had you I don't know if you've heard it said or not, but the best teachers define their success by the success of their kids. I'm going to say that again. The best teachers define their own success by the success of their kids. And so one of my own personal goals coming into a new school and a new faculty was to have the teachers take ownership in their students' data, in their students' academic achievement. I told the teachers, though, that when the magic really starts happening is when your students take ownership in their data. The first step is for the teachers to take ownership. And then the next step is for the teachers to figure out how to create this culture in their classroom where the kids take ownership. And make no mistake about it, the teacher is the variable. The variable is not the socioeconomic status, not the race, not the support of the parents. The variable is the teacher. I'm not trying to lay a guilt trip on any of you, but to empower you. You guys have so much potential to make a difference. Not just school culture, but certainly the climate, the culture of your classroom. You guys are the variable. You know, some teachers are passive in the process. Like, well, I taught it. You know, if you've ever had a colleague say, well, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. I remember one time when I was an assistant principal at Tarrant, and I heard this this educator say, with this analogy, well, you know, the farmers who had horses that sometimes were being stubborn about drinking, but they needed that horse to be hydrated. The horse wouldn't drink. They led the horse to the water, the horse wouldn't drink. But what the innovative farmer did is get a salt block and put it in front of the horse. Horse licks the salt block, then the horse is thirsty. You have to be relentless about figuring out ways to cultivate curiosity with kids and figuring out ways to cultivate a climate in your classroom where kids care. You guys know it does not matter how brilliant you are in the classroom. If the kids don't try in April when they take the Aspire, it doesn't count for anything. It does not matter if the kids don't care, if the kids don't do their best. So what are you doing in October, in January and February to create this atmosphere where kids really care? And yes, you can get 7th and 8th graders to care. It is possible. Sometimes it's challenging, I know, but yes, you can do it. And if you find yourself or a neighbor saying, yeah, but you don't know my kid, you gotta cut that out. That's for losers. Excuses are for losers. You're going to figure out a way. You're relentless.
And you know, I said that a minute ago, and Kim was shaking her head yes, because what your kids do the same thing. Your kids are like, hey, first period will not beat us again.
And if I don't update that wall,
They're coming to you. Exactly.
They're like, you didn't put it
Exactly. Exactly. You know,
up.
exactly. And that's the way it should be. You know, that's what you want your kids to do. You want them to be engaged with that. Because once they're on board with that, that's half your battle right there. Parents are a quarter of your battle. And then you have to pull up the rest. All right, but just like the interim sheets that they keep in their folder. We took the interim one day, I had 11 emails the next day. So-and-so didn't come home with their thing. Well, let me print it. You know, I'm trying to get everybody tested to print. I said, basically the same like, you know, I will have it by Friday. Everyone's going to be tested first. And da-da-da-da. Like, okay, 11. I mean, those 11 parents, I know they're on board. 100%. 100%. All right, again, those class competitions. That consistent verb, said it daily. Always say it. You know, mine are, of course, a little bit younger than yours because mine are still, I consider 6th grade still to be a babyish. You know, at the beginning of the year they come in and they're still very loving and they're still I love you notes that they send and things like that. But I say it daily, and when I'm talking about, they come up to me with the bell ringer and they'll say, do we have to write about them? And I'm like, what would the Aspire Man say? Everything is, you know, and they think the Aspire Man lives in a shack in the woods and he grades all the intelligent responses and da-da-da-da. So, I mean, you know, and they believe that. They never question it, so I can go with it. Okay, so, you know, I always say, well, what would the Aspire Man say? Because he's just one man. There's not a team with them. There's just one man. Student conferences, again, that self-evaluation. For mine, which I hope we all use, or some type of thing. I know my parents are very tired of me when the time April comes up. I even think, you know, it was New Year's Day that I sent one out to all my classes, plus my Disney group going. They're not even my kids, but I said it anyway. You know, hey, let's be inspired for the new year. Get it? Because everything is going to be dealt with that. Everything is going to be built around that. Are you Aspire? Is your child Aspire ready? Okay. Aspire bell ringers, which I did talk when I talked to Ms. Tauber, especially with the English and language arts group. I did it to where I thought, you know what, something's not right because we're not getting those constructive responses finished. Why? Why are we not? What? And I thought, okay, here's my third, that was my third thing that I had a problem with, that I had to try to find a solution for. I talked to Ms. Holloway, who's a reading teacher. She's a veteran reading teacher. She's been teaching reading for a while. I thought, gosh, what do you do? What can we do to make this better? And then, I thought, okay, time them. Duh. Can't be that hard. Time them. So my friend Bobo County said, oh, definitely time it. One that I saw in Winfield. Yes. I definitely do time. So I said, okay, I'm going to time them. I'm going to try to be patient. I'm going to see that first week of school, and I want one part about your summer. What's the favorite thing you did this summer? The last child put their pencil down 25 minutes later. You have 60 minutes, people. And the whole time I'm going, good mercy. And I'd walk around and talk to the ones that were finished, and we'd talk about their summer stuff, and that last one just put their pencil down and like they were proud of that. Like it was a paragraph. That's all I wanted. 25 minutes. I thought, okay, this is where we're going to do. So then I started timing them. Okay? The ones that finished, and I'm telling you, I had to back it down. Now I'm down to like 7 minutes per thing for 3 parts. And when that timer goes off, pencils down. Pencils are down. The biggest thing I think we have with this Aspire is learning how to take the test. That it is time. That you do actually have to. It's not given. It's not. All those answer choices are, could be right. We're not finishing the constructive responses because there is too much for us. Then one of my smarties last year said, maybe we're not supposed to finish. And I'm like, maybe not. But you're going to try really, really hard. Okay. So now with my 7 minutes. My 3 parts are answered. And again, I'm still on that personal narrative type thing because who does not like to write about themselves? They all do. When you're in social studies and you're doing your bell ringer thing, hey, paragraph, go. That science, same thing. Math's a little bit different, of course. I say the evidence, you guys say justify. It's okay, same thing. It's why. Tell me how, why. Okay, accountability. I love that some of y'all, your whole faculty reading the book, Leaders of Your Own Learning, or is it just the math? Are y'all doing it math? You are doing it in math. That's the book that y'all are reading in math, Leaders of Your Own Learning? Oh, you're champion. Okay, you're the champion group. If you have the chance, this book is phenomenal. Leaders of Your Own Learning, of their own learning. Okay, we have a copy. I know that the Central Office has copies. Some of us are doing it. I think maybe in the lower grades. But it is a fabulous book. It would be a great book to study, to do. Again, with data notebooks, which you all have, data notebooks, you all have data notebooks that you carry on. And when you talk, do you have? Yes. Okay. To me, that's the biggest tool. I know that it's kind of a pain. And you think it's like the last day before Christmas vacation, and you have to add more stuff to your data notebook. But guess what? When I get back in January, I'm really glad I did that. Because now I can look to see where I need to get going. Okay, now I see where I need to be. Okay, we have the ICANN. This comes straight out of that book. Would you guys have ICANN boards? What can you do? And I think it was Mr. Hester that told me that he actually walked into a classroom and a kid got out of their seat, walked to the person coming into the classroom and said, hey, welcome to the classroom. Today we are learning. Oh my gosh. How wonderful is that? It's not the old school of it, the students will be able to, or the teachers will be able to. Or the teacher will, or the students will be able to, or whatever it is. Now it's I can. If any kid that's in your classroom, they should be able to look at your board and say, you know what, today, Michelle can blah, blah, blah. And that science, social studies, math, that goes across it, okay? Also, when I walked around a classroom in Winfield, I said, hey, it was math, and I don't do math at all. Okay, and I said, hey, wow, that's pretty good right there. He said, yes, because I can do blah, blah, blah. I went, well, you rock, because I can't. I mean, I didn't say that, but I wanted to. Like, I had trouble. to do it. But I mean, it's huge, huge. Those kids knew exactly what they can do, not what the children or students will be able to. Is now I can. Here's another one from Miss Carter's class across the hall, who does a phenomenal job, who was right at 92% with just her reading classes last year. Wow, that's super. Okay, this is what we use at TSGC. All constructive responses should be set up like this. Again, English, reading, social studies, science. It did have 2 S's on it. I thought it was a little weird. So I took an S off and I just combined it. I just made it my own. All right, restate that question, answer the question, cite the evidence, explain how the evidence relates, sum it up, and check the structure and grammar. This is where the Aspire man comes into, who reads all these things in a shack in the woods in somewhere else. Because the first thing I did was, okay, tell me how you would answer this question. The child said, I think it would be great because. I said, that Aspire man did not read that question, has no idea, don't think. So then the child said, okay, the dog, da-da-da-da-da. And so now I know exactly what's going on. Those pronouns, when they start with those pronouns, he, well, who is he? Okay, again, restating that question, answering the question, making sure you have that evidence to cite. Those are your muscles come in. And then explaining how that evidence relates to it. And then summing it up that, and checking that sentence structure and grammar. This is written all the way through TSGC. I went to the computer lab the other day to take my kids down to finish this mini poster we're working on with the world's wonders. And it was all aboard. I went, that's what I'm talking about. I just want to take a picture of it. It was like awesome. Like, way to go. That I know that it's going throughout. And look at quick view in action. There's a second grade classroom. And they're already doing it. That's phenomenal. And again, you see right there, look at that. She's modeling how to do that. She's modeling how to go through, because you're even at 7th grade, you're going to have those kids that, when you write, when you give them that little passage, you say, hey, underline those key points, what are they going to do? And you walk by and say, hey, what was important here? Oh, the dog. Okay? Model how to do it. And don't assume they do it because they're 13 and 14 or whatever years old. Okay? Model how to do it. That's exactly what you're doing there. Look at that print. But it's already happening. Okay? And do you all have Aspire too? Or after school? Is it like all the elementaries have it some cute name, of course, We don't have a cute name either. I don't know what we call it.
We started trying to call it enrichment because tutoring can have a negative connotation.
Right.
We didn't want kids to feel
Right.
bad coming and.
Right. So,
It's called Aspire Tutoring.
oh, they can take it. Yeah, so exactly. So we do that. I know you guys do too. And those are for those kids that were right there on the bubble of that 151 or whatever, 157, I think it's 157, ones that were having trouble of getting up and over that side, or the year before's group up and over. And we'll do it again this year's student. Another thing that was done that you could do in any type of subject area is a parent packet. Okay, I do a parent packet. Others do a parent packet for math, and it's something. And I know that when you're talking about parent packets, you're like, you know what? If the first thought that you came up with just when I said that, that's not going to work out because I have kids that don't do it, then you make time to do it with them. Okay? This actually turns into part of my bell ringer. If I'm assigning this to do and the parents have to sign, do I really care if their parents sign that? No. Do I care if they attempted it? Yes. And then when we go over it the next day, then I know for a fact they're getting it. And I use this as a lesson. It's an informational piece about Mia Hamm. And then throughout, all the different things that have been said, like fact, opinion, synonyms, things that are the same, things that are different, they have to fill in as well. How many times have you heard that? 1,000. And they take this packet and they go home with it. And look, there's races right there. How many times have we got over races? 1,000 and square. How about that? All right? And we go over all this stuff, and they have to do it. Again, I'm not. But you know what? During Warrior Time, if I know they have not finished it, guess where they're coming? Right here. And yes, do I have to give a little bit extra for it? Absolutely. Is it going to pay off not just from our school and this and that, but for that kid? Because guess what? Now he has one-on-one, which might be something that he actually needed. So again, a parent packet that goes with math, goes with reading, you can make one that's reading based from science stuff. I mean, anything you want to do, social studies, anything that you can do to get those parents aboard. And having those parents sign, they know that they're on board with it. Here's some great resources that I found. I know that this one, let's see which one was it? Discovery Education one. That email came out to us, and Ms. Toller reminded me of it because it came out to us in a time that was it towards the beginning of the year? When would it come out? I don't remember. But there's a lot going on. And you know what I did with that? I was like, oh my gosh, right now. And then she said, hey, make sure you look at this. I'm like, wow, I'm in love with it. It's awesome. It really is, especially with those informational texts that they have. But that first one is pretty good. I want to say that it does go up to 8th grade. I might need to check on that. The Common Core Coach, which anything that had a coach name attached to it, you know what I thought of it immediately? The ARMS books. They were purple, and they came out, and then this was laying on my desk one day, and I said, I saw that part, I was like, I know someone didn't put an ARMS book on my desk, because it's purple, and it's Coach, but it's not. It is the Common Core Coach, and then the Common Core Support Coach. They kind of go hand in hand with each other. They do come with math as well. I talked to Mark Gray. I said, hey, we need to look into these things. We need to see that if we can kind of get them. So this is something that we need to look into for real, because this really, I mean, it is great little 5-minute activities, 10-minute activities. You know, the days that you don't want to start anything new to go into, this is absolutely fabulous. And then Scholastic Pages, they're wonderful. Scholastic, they have, again, those are just little things. Now, are you going to go back today and incorporate everything on that list tomorrow? No. One thing at a time, sweet Jesus, okay? That last one is great because the fact that it does have those fictional and non-fictional. You don't want to bombard them with all that informational, non-fictional text, because guess what? They're done. You just killed them. But when you throw fictional in there, they think, oh, yay, because they all like it. It's an easy read. They're done. It comes from the back. I'm finished with it. And it does have grades 2 through 10 on there, which is, I think, fabulous. That the kids can look at, and you can do it whole groups on your computer. And you pick the answers and why you actually picked it. So check those out. But they are absolutely wonderful to do. Does anybody have any questions or anything? You guys already, like I said, my daughter's over here, and the things that she comes home with, and all of her areas, and I'm not just saying it's just reading and math, I'm saying science and social studies and things like that. I mean, I'm literally blown away. And I'll probably email some of you saying that I am actually blown away, especially math, because you know I don't do that.
Raise your hand if you got into education to raise test scores. Anybody? I did not expect to see any hands. And so, something that we have to be mindful of, we're competitive at TSGC, as I know you guys are here, so we talk a lot about the Aspire, we talk a lot about test scores, and as we were thinking about getting this together, talking to educators from around the state, I didn't want the last thing that they hear from us to be something about test scores. That's why they came to the workshop, I know, and I know that's kind of what you have a specific focus on now is the Aspire, but it's important to be mindful of that we're about more than the test scores. There was a teacher that I had at Tarrant High School who went to teach at Mortimer Jordan, and a couple years ago was the Teacher of the Year for Jefferson County. And a reporter said, what is your advice to new teachers? And when I read this in the paper, I read his advice, it absolutely blew me away. And so I shared it with teachers at the beginning of our school year. What's your advice to new teachers? Somehow that didn't go through in the slide. But this was his advice. I'll try to remember it. This is what he said. Teach every child like you are their lifeline. like you are their last chance to succeed. You don't know what each child has been through. You don't know how many chances they have had. Teach each child like you are their lifeline. You are their last chance to succeed. As you know, you've got kids that have terrible home lives. That this is their one good meal or two good meals at school. That they're worried about who's picking on them in the hallway or whatever. Kids have so much other stuff on their minds. We're trying to raise their Aspire test scores, and they've got other stuff. Some of our kids just need new parents. Or need some parents. And you've heard that the kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. All of this stuff that Michelle talked about, the culture of collaboration, the attack the passage, all of these great instructional strategies, all the stuff you do in the classroom, it has to be in the context of caring about kids. I know you know that because that's why you got into business, but it's important that we all remind each other of that, is that we meet kids where they are, we love them where they are, we're patient with them, we're compassionate toward them, and everything we do in the classroom, it's about caring about kids. We are heroes to our kids. We're not just raising test scores, we are making a difference in their lives. We are helping create a better future for them. Now, when they raise their test scores, when they get a higher ACT and get into college, that will create a better future. But we're about kids. We're about making a difference in their lives. So during our school year, that we're focused on test scores, but we're also trying to keep a parallel focus on the fact that we're teaching kids and we're trying to make a difference in their lives every day. Thank you for listening. I realize you didn't really have a choice, but thanks for listening just the same. We've got the stack of handouts. I told Dr. Woodley, I know you guys are getting run, at least core teachers are getting ready to run to high school to the vertical team meetings, but certainly you can email any of us or any kind of questions. We're just right down the road. But it was very nice talking to you. Dr. Woodley brags on you how much potential there is at the middle school, so I know great things can happen with you guys.